Hello, look, it's an exhaust header. I'm fitting the headers today, and I've been out here working for quite a while because every single bolt has had to be modified. All of the bolts have had to be shortened. I've done some careful measurements and measured how deep the threads are, and I've screwed the bolts in and they all stick out enough to hold this, but not too much where they wouldn't clamp down on it. So that's took quite a while, to be honest. But I thought I would just show you the the fact that you do have to spend quite a while doing this. And obviously if these were standard exhaust manifolds, they'd be thicker here, so the bolts could be longer, but because they're headers and this is just a 1/4 inch flange, the bolts have all had to be shortened. All the threads have had a tack put through them, and basically I'm just going to put some copper stuff on there, like anti-seize, and bolt them on. So I thought I would, well, I'll just put the camera here on the side and you can see me do it. These will all probably come off at some point and get kind of cleaned up and tidied up. I haven't test fitted these, so I don't know if all the bolts line up. I'm hoping that they do. I did have a little bit of a problem on the other side. I had to kind of pull things about a little bit, but I did manage to get it on. Don't really know what I'm trying to achieve by putting this on here, but I don't know. Just makes me feel better. These are a pair of Reds headers that I bought when I bought the car. I had to modify the other side to go around the steering box. That's not the right bolts, is it? That's 3/8. Now that's the important thing, that some people say, oh, I've stripped my threads on the exhaust manifold. And it's always, you do know, don't you, that the front ones are 7/16. Oh, are they? You know, they're lucky because they haven't stripped them, but they just tried putting the 3/8 bolts in the front ones. And I think it stems from the very early models. The very early models had the exhaust system coming off this front port. So I imagine they beefed up the threads on these front ones to account for the fact that it not only held the manifold, but had to hold the an exhaust pipe hanging off it as well. I'm putting the front ones in first because they're the bigger diameter, so they've got less kind of wiggle room on them. I ain't that impressed by these manifolds. They're just what comes in the current sets. So I'm not very impressed by these gaskets. That's what I meant to say. Actually, I think I'll swap that one, because I did have one that's got a thicker head there for there. I'll put the ones with the thicker heads at the top because they're the authentic style. As usual, rattle it about a bit to, get the bolt started. You're working blind a little bit on these lower ones. Not sure this one wants to go. Okay, let's get it started. No, this one will go. Just a little subtlety of positioning and it's gone in. got this little socket that I made. It's been turned down and it's got a 1/4 inch drive. I made it to give clearance on the headers on the Roadster. You know, when you look at something you think, that's not quite how I'd like it. Oh, okay. Right, there's something there that needs attention. Can you see that that stud there is very close to the header? So what I'll need to do, I'll need to look at my starters and see why that stud, I think that stud might be a bit longer than some of the others, and I might need to maybe change the starter or do something to get a shorter stud on there. I don't really want to modify the header. This side is quite different because, as you can see, it has to be brought inboard quite a bit to clear the steering box. I don't know if I can get the steering box in with that in place. I fitted it more or less as a trial fit, and what I'll do, I'll make some little short stub pipes that'll go from there back, just back to about here, down this area here, and put a silencer on. So that'll be my next little job. And you can see there the way that they lie quite differently. You can see that one on the right is quite a bit higher and further forward. I modified this, so I don't know if I made it longer, I can't remember. I wanted to run it with exhausts on, and I want to run it with silencers on, so that when it runs and fires, first of all, it's not too noisy because I live in a suburban area, but it's not too noisy that I won't be able to hear something rattling or a knock or something. Okay, thanks a lot then, catch you next time, bye. Hello. I offered this steering box and it wouldn't go. So I've slackened all the bolts on the header, but not actually taken any of them out because it was a little bit difficult to get these bolts started. And by undoing that bolt there and that bolt there, I was able to kind of wriggle this in. It wasn't easy, but I did manage to do it. I'm pleased about that you can get the steering in and out with the header still in place, although not fitted fully up. So I've tightened the header bolts up. I borrowed that bolt from there and put it in there because I knew I could put one in there after, but I can't put one in there after. So that's all bolted up, and there's clearance. There's like a tight finger's width of clearance all round it. Okay, I'm going to look at the other side because the other side's got a problem with the terminal on the starter, so I'm going to look at that now. Hello, I just took the starter off and it had this thing on the end. The stud has broken, so it's been fitted with this repair piece, which I've just put on the lathe, and I've took about 1/8 of an inch off there and about 1/4 of an inch off there, so that is shorter now than it was. So that goes on there, and hopefully when I put it back in now there should be enough clearance between this and the header. Okay, right, if you look down there you can see the nut, and the nut actually does just about come off, on and off. Okay, that's just got it started, but I did have to slacken the starter bolts to do that. With the starter bolts on, the nut will just come to the end of the thread but is captive there still. Hopefully it is enough clearance to work. So I can just either slacken the header bolts or slacken the starter bolts just to give it that enough clearance, and then once the cable's fitted, that's it anyway, it won't need to come off again. Okay, onwards and upwards. I've just put the starter on, and I've just hooked up this, it's actually a, what you call it, like an isolator switch. But when I've got this I've just got this connected straight to the starter. There's no ignition or anything on yet. It does crank, watch. Don't know if it cranks slow or fast or what. But... So what I thought I would do is take the plugs out. I don't know, maybe squirt some oil down the bores, I don't know. You know, I'm kind of winging it a little bit. And then crank it until I see oil pressure on there. I'm not ready to run it yet, but I thought, why not do that? As I've got the starter hooked up, let's do that as a preliminary. Let's get that and get an oil pressure reading on there. Okay, let's whiz them plugs out then. Alright, let's see what happens then. Hopefully it won't get covered in oil. I think that's come off the stop. I think that's pretty good myself. 40 psi cranking. Alright, okay, it's probably a fast crank, isn't it? 12 volts and no compression. Yeah. Okay, good. Whew, okay, right then. So we can assume then that there's oil all around the system. I'm not in a position to fire it yet, but you know, obviously this little bit of footage will go on the beginning of the montage when I you know, do the fire up. Okay, good. Starter's not even warm. It's under very little load, isn't it, the starter? Okay, good. Right, that's a good step in the right direction then. You know, only a few more steps and we'll be in a position to get it started. Okay, I will continue to work away off camera and get more and more things connected, and I'll bring you back at the next stage. Okay, thank you very much then. Bye. This fuel pipe arrived today. So what I've done, because I've got like about 16 foot of it. I know it sounds daft, but I've got it running all the way back here, and I've connected it to there. So now I'm going to pressurise this system. I have been pumping this, and you can see it on there. But what I might do is try putting the ignition on and see if the electric pump will pump it. Let's see if what that does. Okay, let's. So it's this button here. Bear in mind, it's got to pump it all the way along that pipe there. No leaks there. I've only just pushed it on the end. Oh, look, there's fuel there. Okay, so it's leaking from here. I mean, this is just a fuel pump I found lying around. Okay, that's got fuel, look. See, that's got fuel. it might not leak when it's sucking rather than being pressurised. I might do better to take that off, mightn't I? See if I've got another one I can try. I'll have to regroup on this job then, but at least it does show that it can pick fuel up from the coupe, which might be better than having it on an open tank, you know, an open can here. Okay, right. Another little bit of information for the to think over then. Okay, right, I'll bring you back when there's a bit more to show. Hello, I'm getting ready to run the engine, but what I wanted to do is put some silencers on. So I started kind of gathering together. I've got a pair of silencers, well, resonators, which are going to do as silencers. And I've gathered together some bits of pipe, and what I've done here is I wanted to take account of where the battery's going to go. So I'm thinking if the battery goes there and the silencer sits there, I want to bring the exhaust through there, up and into there. So that's my plan at the moment. I've got a piece of pipe that kind of clamps onto there, and it goes down at an angle. And I've just got this I'll call it a silencer for the want of a better term, positioned there so it clears the battery. And I've just got a piece of pipe connected to it that kind of scoots forward. So I need to go from there to there now. You can see where it finishes there. So if you don't think about things like the battery, you end up stuck later on with nowhere to put it. So basically this one will come inside of the battery on this side here. That will come inside of the battery, but that one will go outboard of the master cylinder. So that one will run more parallel to the frame and then kick out like that. As I'm working, I thought I'd just stop and just capture a little bit on my phone before it's too late and I get too far ahead. But you can see the process of just getting together what bits you can and piecing them together. Okay, here's the exhaust pipe, and you can see I've tacked it to a piece of tubing, to another piece of tubing, to another piece of tubing, and that last piece there was the last piece that I put in. And the last piece is always the hardest piece, this piece. And another piece of tubing, and then that original bend that I started off with there. So now I need to put another couple of more tacks on, then this can come off and be finish welded. It's just a hodgepodge, but you can see it kind of, if we sort of come back a bit, you can see it kind of sneaks down there, comes back, misses the battery, and comes out in a position that I think is okay. You know, when you look down from the side, that will look okay. Then that can just be come out and terminated here. So that's how I have done the exhaust on this side, and it should be quite simple to fabricate a little hanger back here somewhere. That's the Mart method, and you get all your old exhaust pipes, cut them all up and do it like that. So that's one side done, well, tacked, and then I hope I've got enough bits and pieces to do the other side. Hello, right, the second side I've just mocked up, well not mocked up, you know, but roughed it up and got a tack on each joint. I only put one on because I wasn't using my mask, so I had to squint. But this side was much simpler. But you can see the run of the pipe is different to that side because I had to come inboard the battery on that side. But I'm outside, you know, and I kept it well away from the master cylinder as well. It's a little bit close to a brake pipe there, but I could kind of loop the brake pipe up a little bit if I wanted to. But I think it'll be fine. There's plenty of fresh air around there. So I'll put a couple of more tacks on. Then I'll take this side off as well. I've took that side off. I'll take this side off as well, and I'll fully weld them. There isn't any... Hello. I'm going to try and do a little bit of gas welding. I've tacked this. It's not a great contender because it's a bit dirty, but first thing to do, what you do, you get the ND welding wire and you put a bend in it like that. Put a little bend like that. That's so you know that's the cold end. Then you light your torch. You get it to a nice flame like that. Then you get your goggles on so you can see. Then you heat the metal up and you get really close so you can really see. It's no good being back here, you've got to be here. That's why I have to use glasses that are stronger than my normal glasses. Now that metal there is heating up too quickly, so I'm heating the metal behind. Now there is a complication with this. I'm also doing the #1 rule that you shouldn't do there, melting the filler metal, but I have got the filler metal to melt into the base metal there on the piece above. Then you kind of tease it around, tease it along the joint. Once you get it going, you can kind of keep it moving then. There's my MIG tack weld. Okay. Carefully put the torch down so it don't touch anything. And rotate your piece so you can, you know, get good access. Right, so I've just picked my stick up and I know which is the cold end because I've just, you know, I've got that bend on it. Because I'm right-handed, I tend to go from right to left. Again, I'm trying to get that piece there, that's it, that piece that's at the back to melt, because there's a slight mismatch in the diameters here. The piece above is half slipped inside the other piece. It looks a lot nicer than MIG welding. You want it so it heats up quite quickly. You don't want it to be. You don't want to be standing there for ages waiting for it to heat up. I'm kind of overreaching myself a bit. I only need to go another tiny bit there. You can get that spitting back if you don't have the flame rod, but I can't quite remember which way round it is. It's not very nice when molten metal spits back in your face. Okay. You're supposed to have like a pool of metal and dip the weld into it. What tends to happen is that you tend to kind of melt the rod. You can get it to move quite fast once you get it going. Like that. That went quite quick, didn't it? Okay. So that's fully welded there. That's fully welded there. And that's fully welded there. So that's the one piece. That's this side done, other than sorting out a tailpipe and some sort of a mount. Okay, good. Let's offer this on then. There it is, just put in place. Nice and simple. Yeah, it looks a bit sticking out a bit more at the bottom than I wanted, but I might be able to pivot it up a little bit. Yeah, that's better. That's I just rotated it a bit, and it's now further in and higher, so it's less noticeable from the side. You still see a little bit, but it's much less noticeable from the side. Okay, right, another step forward. Bit more welding to do, and I can put the other side on as well. Okay, I'll see you a bit later then. Bye. Oh dear. Oh dear, doesn't look good, does it? Look at that. Not nice, is it? Don't know what this is, just dirt. You know, terrible. Let's go down the bores one by one. That looks terrible, doesn't it? Corrosion's eaten into the piston there. That bore looks pretty bad. That bore is probably not too bad because the bottom half of the bores don't look too bad. This one here looks bad. That bore looks badly corroded around that area there. This one looks quite bad as well. That's got heavy corrosion in the piston. Not sure about the bore. Not, yeah, quite bad actually. And that one's at the top, so can't really tell. Heavily kind of corroded here. Let me get the valves. Don't look so bad on this side, but they're obviously completely shut. That's a pretty horrible mess around there, look. I've hit a stumbling block. If you look down that cylinder, can you see down there that there is a crack there? Can you see it? The braze looks okay. There's a little void there, but that doesn't matter, and there is a crack there, which I am debating how I'm going to go about trying to drill that. Okay. Ta-da!
hot.
Yeah. Hotsville, man. The other thing I've done is cleaned up this area here, because on many of these there was corrosion in this area, so the edge of the liner was sticking up. So I've kind of done a mini relief there. I've taken all the valves that I had, and I've taken all the guides that I had, and I've sorted through some used parts that were left over from other engines, and I've put together a set of valves. Okay, gently down towards you a bit. That's it. Lift. That's it. There you go. Right, see if it spins. See if you can turn it. Turns, doesn't it? See where you get your fingers caught. Okay. That's it. In my way of doing it anyway. So that goes in there. There we go. There's 8 pistons and rods then ready to go. A full complement of split pins or cutter pins if you prefer. All done. Okay, cool. I'm relatively pleased about that, the way that's come out. I find it easier to do them in 2 pairs rather than trying to go around all 4. So I'm quite happy with that. There's the mark coming round. Can you see that? So there's, oops, it's gone past a little bit. So there's top dead centre, and there's the piston at top dead centre. And milled it flat. So that's ready to go on. This is ready to accept it, but I think it looks okay. I think it looks okay. And once it's dried, I can see which bits, you know, need a little bit more, and I'll give it another coat. Okay, good little bit of progress there. Thank you very much for joining me in the garage then. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye. Hello, welcome to Mart's garage. Okay, it's come time to see if this engine will run. I've done a lot of preparation work. There's a couple of things that are still yet untried, that coil for instance, but it does say high power on it, so it must be good. I've got the fuel hooked up to the coupe. Who knows if that's going to work or not. I've got the door open in case it gets fumy, and I'm going to see if it'll go. All the plug wires are on, and I've I've checked the timing order on the wires. I can smell fuel there. I can't see much of a squirt from the carb, but I can smell fuel. So let's just give it a go, see what happens. Okay, right. This is my ignition wire. That one goes to the coil. This one goes to the battery. Well, it will do in a minute. Okay. So the ignition is on. Right then, let's see what happens. Let's see if I can... I think the fuel's primed. I've got gauges here. Okay, got coolant coming out of here. I need to put a pipe on there, don't I? Okay, I'll do that and we'll regroup in a minute, but to be honest, you can't fault that, can you, for a first start on a freshly rebuilt engine? Wow, that was great. Wow, fantastic. Well pleased with that. That's good, isn't it, Jack? It's good, yeah. Yeah. You're pleased? I'm pleased with that. Because, so I'll cut this bit out, but I'm pleased with that because you helped me put some of this engine together, didn't you? Yeah, do you remember? The old hair dryer. Yeah. The liners and you put the lifters in, didn't you? And we did the valves. Wow, it just fired up. That's fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it went straight away.
Crazy. People are going to think I've fiddled it. Let's see if I can get this on here. Thanks, Jack. Okay, good. Right, let's try it again. The only thing I haven't got hooked up is the electric fan. I'm amazed, aren't you, how it went? But I've primed the fuel. The distributor has been tried on the truck. The carb's been tried on the truck. This was leaking, but it seems okay now. It seems to be, I don't know, let's just give it another go. These are the exhausts I made yesterday. I'm glad I've got those on because it'd be really noisy, wouldn't it, otherwise? kind of just looking around generally. Haven't got any thermostats in it. That coil seems to work alright. High power. IC. I can't remember, I think it's commercial ignitions or something like that. Just got the battery there. .40 psi. Not sure if that's not working. Might be working, mightn't it? Bit of water around everywhere, you know, where it blew out. That's pretty sweet, isn't it? Okay, I stopped it because everything boiled over. What I've done, I just took that old school battery charger there and hooked it up to this electric fan, and it's pulling heat out the radiator. So let's give it another start then and see what happens, unless everything's soaking wet. It is a little bit wet, but what the gauge is saying, about 180. So let's run it for another little bit longer then, if it'll start. Okay. Ignizione. Startio. It hasn't got much oil pressure now it's hot. It hasn't got much oil pressure now it's hot, and just on a low idle like that. But I'm not at all surprised, you know, from the condition of the bearings and everything. And I thought I heard a little rattle when it cranked up and fired. But that is running really sweet, isn't it? That fan isn't very noisy actually. You can feel the heat that it's pulling out. It's not a massive amount, but it's pulling heat out. I think it's supposed to push rather than pull. That condenser, I tried it on the truck and it ran okay. I can see some water dripping here. It's probably this pump. This is the one that I rebuilt. Hopefully it might bed in. Well, that's not bad, is it? Look, with the fan on, look, it's holding at 170 at a low idle, and not a lot of oil pressure. Let's try turning it off, see if the needle moves. Not really. Okay. So do you think that's no oil pressure or just low oil pressure? Not a lot, is it? Oh yeah, it has moved actually, yeah, it did move. Okay, that's reading a little bit higher now, isn't it? Still alright though. Oh, got water coming out of here again. Okay, let's nip that up. Okay, I think that's going to come off the end. That's come off the end, that has. Okay, got a little problem there then. That's going to come off the end, so that's a problem. Okay, turn it off. If that jumps off, it's going to have water everywhere. Because these are just pipes, they've got no, you know, raised bit on them. That's sliding off. Okay, I'm not going to run it much longer. I've got a few things I need to attend to. I'm quite pleased with the exhausts, the sound of the exhausts. I'm not very pleased with how they look. But to be honest, I kind of, you know, I did them just to get the motor running. Well, not just to get the motor running. I did them so I could get the motor running, but I thought I would do them like I would like them. But I might end up redoing them. Okay, I'll turn it off now because the carb... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. The carb is fine, the distributor is fine, the fuel pump seems to be fine, this coil seems to be fine. The only thing that doesn't seem too great is the oil pressure. The oil pressure is a bit low. But to be honest, just for cruising around locally, it'd be fine. It'd be great, wouldn't it? You know, just give it a ride around. The electric fan seems to work. I just hooked it up to this old-fashioned thing. Look, it's drawing about 4 amps. Oh, maybe a bit more, it's 5 amps. Probably maxed on the scale. The radiator, by and large, appears to hold water. Yeah, the radiator doesn't seem too bad. These tubular things, I need to put like a bead of weld around the end to act as a, you know, a barb. That was the problem here. This was riding off. So other than water everywhere and next to no oil pressure, it seems okay. The pistons and, you know, the bores and pistons seem to have, well, be okay. There's no massive rattles or knocks or bangs, is there? Unfortunately, that's all I can do is run it at a fast idle here. But at least that splashed plenty of oil around, and judging by the clearances on those bearings, it really would have been plenty of oil. My hokey fuel system, drawing it from the, I mean, it's drawing the fuel from the tank that's about 25 feet away, probably more. Okay, right. Well, there you go. The first start on the old 59 Flatty. I'll have to think now about whether this engine is good enough to go into this car. My immediate thoughts are no, it's not good enough, to be honest. I could do with a better bottom end assembly than that. Too much play in the bearings. If it was just you know, something that you'd drive to, you know, as I say, drive to town now and then and just cruise, get an ice cream or something, it'd be okay, wouldn't it? But if you're talking about going long distances or driving it somewhere and racing it, no. So the old crusty Flatty, that's a bit dodgy on the bottom end, and this one's a bit dodgy on the bottom end. You could see it had tons of oil pressure when it was cold, and then that just once it got up to temperature, that just dwindled away, didn't it? I'll have to have a think about that. And what I'll do, I'll leave it to go cold again, and I'll start it again and see what the oil pressure's like. If it's a lot lower than it was, that means, well, I don't know what it means, to be honest. But I think that was quite remarkable for a first start of a, I'm going to use a rebuilt engine in a very loose sense of the word, loose, really loose, that it started up really well, didn't it? Only cranked it a few times and it went. Okay. Thanks very much for joining me and following the saga of the old 59 Flatty. To be honest, when I bought that engine, I never dreamt that I would actually get it running. And it does run. You know, let's pause to think about the condition of some of the parts. I mean, the cylinder heads were terrible. The bores were dreadful. I cracked one of the bores. I repaired it. I went oversize on one of the liners, and I bought another liner and bored to suit that, and I repaired that. The pistons are like new old stock. Ex-World War II military. Who's to say that they're going to be any good? Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? The cam, the followers, the valves, the seats, everything is dreadful. But I managed to get it running. So there you are. It's running, and you've witnessed it running, and you witnessed it start up for the first time. I just treated the 32 chassis as a sort of test stand. I think it's good to have things like that, because you can't predict what's going to happen. I think it's important though, isn't it, that you have got a decent cooling circuit in place. It might be that these hose clamps aren't best suited for this application, but I just happen to like them. So thank you very much for tuning into Mart's Garage. Thank you very much to those that have followed this saga of this engine. Thanks to those who are following the build of the 32. You take very good care of yourselves, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.